Hey everybody, what's good? What's going on? JB here with another CyberInsight live stream. Welcome back. Today we are going to be doing another TryHackMe room, and as we've done a few times in the past, I'm bringing back my friend Kiki from TechSecChix to come in and help me out with this one. We're going to be talking a little bit about Windows, kind of the different types of Windows, files, directory structures, users, GPOs, all sorts of good stuff. So if you aren't really familiar with the basics of Windows administration and also kind of looking at that from a security perspective, then today's stream is going to be pretty useful for you. So let me welcome Kiki over onto the chat again. Hey Kiki, what's good? What's going on?
Hey, how's it going today?
Hanging in there, no complaints. It's nice and warm up here in DC. I'm sure it's the same down in Georgia.
Scorching. Scorching.
Yeah. So yeah, let's just hop into it. This one, or this particular room, is not in the Pentest Plus curriculum like some of the other ones that we've done. I think this one is in the cyber defense, and I think it might be in one of the other kind of like layout of different courses. But I think it's going to be pretty useful for a whole bunch of folks. So I'm kind of excited to get into that. So let's hop over here into the screen. As always, as we go through this, if you have any questions and stuff like that, throw that in the comments section, or if you just want to drop in and say what's up, then yeah, drop that in the comment section as well. And we always like to stop and take breaks and say hello to everybody. So I think the way that we're going to do this is kind of what we've done in the past, which is just walk through the different tasks, go through a little bit of a synopsis of these things, and then kind of give our own perspectives and spin on the information that we think is most important and useful to everybody. The cool thing with this one is there is, I don't want to necessarily say, well, I guess we'd call it a lab. There's a few different tasks where we will actually be RDPing into a Windows machine and doing some different tasks. So if you've never seen that before, then yeah, this will be kind of cool. So Kiki, you want to kick it off with what we got going on with task 1?
Yeah, so it kind of goes over the Windows history, and it says that on November the 20th, 1985, Microsoft announced its operating system named Windows, which was a graphical operating system shell as a response to growing GUIs, which is graphical user interfaces.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, Windows dominates the word of computers. I think that's supposed to be world. I'm gonna move on.
Dominates the word. Yes, most definitely.
Yeah. The world of computers with around 90% market share, and it overtook Apple, which is Mac OS, which was introduced in 1984.
Yep.
So then it goes on to just really shows the different Windows versions from the beginning, and then the Windows servers versions as well.
And everybody has their favorites or their least favorites out of all those, and which ones have given everybody the most headaches. Yeah. Like that one there, which most people hate, Vista. So. And if you still have any Windows XP running in your environment, I don't know what to tell you. You're
you know what? At a past job,
yep.
They had one computer like in the basement that was running like XP, and I was just like, what is even happening?
Well, I mean, so there are certain government organizations that still run XP as well. But what they actually have done is they have special support contracts with Microsoft where Microsoft actually will still develop security patches for them in particular, but there's a hefty price that comes along with that. So
Yeah,
if
I
you
didn't
are,
know that.
yeah, I mean, because back in the day, XP worked pretty good. I mean, that's why it hung around for as long as it did. I mean,
Yeah.
most people were pretty happy with it. So, all right, let's see what we got here for questions. Well, we already kind of covered the history and version. So, when was Windows announced? That is a crazy thing that nobody will ever ask you, but November 20th, 1985. That sounds like a Jeopardy topic or something. But
Right.
which is the latest version of Windows?
Win 10.
Windows 10. Yep. And what? Windows 7 went end of support last year, I think.
Yeah.
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 So you still might run into that in some environments if they haven't migrated to 10 yet. Still kicking around. And what's the latest version of Windows Server? Is 2019.
2019.
I think trying to remember if 2012 R2 went end of support last year too. I have a feeling it did too. I think it coincided with Windows 7.
Yeah, it may have.
All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about file systems.
All right. So, what is a file system? It is the method and data structure that an operating system uses to keep track of files on a disk or a partition. Without a file system, the information saved in a storage medium would be one large body of data with no way to tell where the information begins and ends. Windows file system structure is logical drives, like a C drive, folders, and files. Uh, Something that might also interest you would be the folders located on the C drive in their row. These common folders are performance logs, program files, users, and Windows. Um, I'm trying to get to the meat of this
Yep.
because it's pretty lengthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean we can summarize what we need to there. Um
I know file permissions is good.
yep.
Just to know that administrator of privilege accounts, users and groups, some of the permissions that can be set, like full control, modify,
Yep.
read and execute, and read and write.
Yep.
So those are important to know.
And this also comes back to and can come into play with what we do later on as far as both different users and different types of groups. So whenever we're doing group policy objects, we might want to give certain individuals or certain groups different types of permissions on different folders or files and things like that. And being able to centrally manage and control that makes that a lot easier than trying to do that on a individual level across everything across the organization.
Yeah, it definitely beats having to go through one by one and set those permissions, especially in an enterprise
Yep.
setting. Like, that would be a nightmare. Okay, so it kind of goes through how to set the permissions. And then the next area just kind of says, as you can see, users can only read, execute, and list the folder
Yep.
contents. However, you want to allow them to be able to store, edit, or delete files inside that folder. To
Yep.
do that, check the modify box, which they show it in the picture. It's pretty easy to do if you have those type of permissions,
Yep.
especially like if you're working with AD or something of that nature. It's good to know how to do it though.
Yep. And I mean, I don't know that it necessarily kind of points this out very well here, but really what you're doing is you're right clicking on whatever the folder or the file is to be able to get to this point where you're able to modify the permissions, and then you're clicking on one of these different groups or usernames that then brings up the individual permissions that's kind of down in this box here. And then you can click and modify those however you want to.
Yep. So the next section, it looks like they are setting permissions using PowerShell. let's see. So a tool you can use to check the files or folder permissions is ICA-CLS. Um, and it kind of goes on to explain some of the letters that you are seeing in that sample. I is for permission inherited from parent container. F is for full access or for control. M would be for modified. And OI is object inherit. IO is inherit only. CI container inherent. RX read and execute. AD append data, which is basically adding subdirectories.
Yep.
And WD is writing data and adding files.
So I think kind of one of the other important things here, I mean, when you're talking about inheriting any type of permissions, that can also make things a bit easier. I mean, so if you set the permissions on whatever the root folder is or a higher level folder, and then have everything underneath that inherit whatever the permissions are that you put on there for the different users and groups, then that is also another way that those things can flow down and be easier to manage.
Yeah.
Have you ever used, I don't even know, iCackles, ICAckles, ICACLS before? Have you used that with? I've never run into using that myself, so.
Not in PowerShell, like because basically what you're doing in this section in PowerShell, you can do with kind of the GUI type
Right. Yep.
thing up top. So I've used that, but I've never done it in PowerShell like this.
Yep.
So it's interesting.
Yep. Options, so many options.
But I mean, it's important to really know it because at the end of the day, when you're working with Active Directory groups,
yep.
Just having it where you could put somebody into that group and they would automatically inherit their, permissions
Yep.
of that group. So it's just really helpful.
Yeah, I think the key takeaway with this type of information is understanding that you have a whole bunch of different options when it comes to permissions that you can put on folders and individual files, and you have a whole bunch of different ways that you can either have individual permissions for that or ways that you can link those back to groups. And that's probably the main thing that I would want people to take away from that. So,
yep.
Read the above. In which folder are user profiles stored? Let's see.
Yeah,
I mean, they do like to make it pretty straightforward with some of this stuff.
gotta love it.
Hey, Kay, what's good? See Kay dropping in here on the chat. All right.
Okay.
Now something a little bit more exciting than permissions and folder structures.
Yeah.
All right.
So,
authentication.
Right. So authentication is a process for verifying the identity of a person or an object or a service. When you authenticate a person, the goal is to verify that that person is not an imposter. We use that word a lot in this industry.
Well, and it's also important to delineate the difference between authentication and authorization, right? So authentication being, yes, you are who you're saying that you are, and authorization being, you are who you're saying you are, and you have the ability or permissions to do X, Y, and Z.
What you need to do.
Right. Because just because you authenticate successfully doesn't mean that you're authorized to do whatever it is that you want to do.
Yep. Right. So local authentication is done using the local security authority, which is LSA. LSA is a protected subsystem that keeps track of the security policies and accounts that are on the computer system. It also maintains information about all aspects of local security on a computer. And then they go into the two different types of Active Directory. So on-prem, Active Directory, and then Azure, which is in the cloud.
Yeah. Now, all of my experience has been strictly with on-prem AD. I know that there's
On-prem.
a lot of differences between the two. And as far as like security best practices with integrating the two, I believe you don't really want to just try to push everything over into Azure AD. I think you want to kind of be specific with the things that you're kind of sharing back and forth between there. I think it's a little bit
Yeah,
more of a flat architecture than kind of as delineated as your on-prem AD is.
yeah. Yeah, and I've actually worked with both. Like the last job I had, it was kind of hybrid. We
Yep.
used both of them. We didn't use Azure for a lot,
Yeah.
but we did use it for certain things.
Yep.
Um, so yeah, on-premise Active Directory has a record of all users' PCs and servers, and authenticates the user signing in, the network login. Once signed in, Active Directory also governs what the users are and are not allowed to do or access, which is authorization, like you said.
Yep.
Um, and then they get into in an on-premise Active Directory environment, the authentication can be made using the following protocols, which is NTLM, LDAP slash LDAPs, and Kerberos.
Yep.
All right, so NTLM and version 2 uses a challenge response sequence of messages between a system. NTLMs provides authentication based on a challenge response authentication scheme. It does not provide data integrity or data confidentiality protection for the authenticated network. Could not do that.
Yep. Now, a few things with that. NTLM version 1 will get you in a lot of trouble. NTLM
Mm-hmm.
version 2 can still get you in trouble. And so
Yeah.
there's a bunch of security hardening that you want to make sure that you're doing within your environments. Um, I don't know if they're going to hit on like uh, past a hash and stuff like that in here at all.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we'll definitely be hitting on it in some of the other Windows rooms that we're doing on the Pentest Plus
Mm-hmm.
side of stuff. But yeah, you don't want to just go willy-nilly going around with your NTLM and not actually configuring that in a secure way because it can get you in some trouble.
Very much so. All right, so LDAP and LDAP-S, the main difference between the two is that LDAP with an S supports encryption, and therefore the credentials are not sent in plain text across the network, which is what we definitely want that. Another thing to keep in mind is that the domain controller can be considered a database of users, groups, computers, and so on. Using LDAPs, the user's workstation sends the credentials using an API to the domain controller in order to validate them and be able to log in.
So,
And they give kind of the no. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
well, I was going to say, so another important thing with LDAP and LDAP-S is this is a protocol that can be used for authenticating against users in an Active Directory domain for other types of devices besides Windows devices. So your Linux servers can use LDAP. You can have different types of hardware appliances that can use LDAP. Different types of applications can use LDAP as well. So it's kind of a nice way to be able to leverage um, kind of that centralized database of users with passwords and things like that for other things outside of just Windows devices. Another good thing to point out with that, for those of you who might be doing Network Plus stuff, LDAP is 389 and LDAP S is 636. So those are some good port numbers to remember when it comes to those because you will most definitely see that at some point.
Yeah, I actually had a question about that on the Pentest Plus exam. So yeah, it is good to know and understand what they are and what they do. All right, so Kerberos. Another way to authenticate is using Kerberos. Kerberos uses symmetric key cryptography and requires trusted third-party authorization to verify users' identities. The authentication process is similar to the one below.
So this is always interesting. This is good stuff to understand. It's always kind of confusing um, if you don't deal with it all the time to remember all the different acronyms, right? But you got the TGT, ticket granting ticket. Um, hey, Kiki, are you getting any feedback on the mic there from me? I'm getting an
No,
echo here.
no.
No, you're not hearing that?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Um,
Anybody else hear echo? Or is it just.
no, maybe it was just me. It seems to have gone away. So we were talking about TGT. You're getting that from your key distribution center, which is your domain controller.
Mhm.
The domain controller ends up verifying the credentials that are passed and sends a encrypted ticket granting ticket back to the client. The ticket granting ticket is encrypted using the ticket granting service or TGS secret key um, from the domain controller. The client stores this ticket granting ticket um, and then uses the ticket granting ticket to communicate back with the ticket granting service whenever it actually wants to access a particular service on another server. At that point, the ticket granting service ends up sending back a valid session key for that service to the client, and then the client is able to take that session key and connect to the service that it wants to go to, whatever that service is that's within the Active Directory domain. Um,
Yeah,
so,
and if the if Kerberos ever gets exploited, like that could be a nightmare. That golden
yep,
ticket situation, like you basically have the keys to the kingdom to authorize whatever.
yep.
Um, so that's good to know what that does and
That
how
and,
it works.
and Kerber roasting is another thing that attackers might do within the environment. And since we're hitting on ports for kicks and giggles, Kerberos is 88, I believe. And it might use TCP and UDP, uh, if I remember off the top of my head. All right,
Right.
authentication on AZ.
Okay. Um, Azure Active Directory is a secure online authentication store which contains users and groups. Excuse me. Users have a username and password which are used when you sign into an application that uses Azure Active Directory for authentication. So, for example, all of the Microsoft Cloud services use Azure for authentication, Office 365, Dynamics 365, and Azure. Um, Azure Active Directory supports security assertion markup language, which is SAML, OAuth 2.0, and OpenID Connect. So let's go into SAML. Um, Security assertion markup language is a type of single sign-on standard. It defines a set of rules, protocols that allow users to access web applications with a single logon. This is possible because those applications, referred to as service providers, all trust the systems that verify users' identities, referred to as identity providers. Um, Anything you want to add with that? I know
Yeah, I
it's.
mean, so SAML and SSO is definitely an important aspect as far as being able to access different types of applications within your environment, both from a cloud perspective and on-prem perspective. And that's kind of why we were talking a little bit before as far as tying certain things together. between your on-prem domain and your Azure cloud stuff. And the whole thing with this, at least from my perspective, is you are trying to make the user experience as seamless as possible, right? So it's users don't want to end up, having one password for one application and then they're going someplace else and having, another password, and then next thing you know, you got 10 different passwords to remember. And then when that happens, then your security normally goes to shit because people end up reusing passwords or, you know,
Yeah.
trying to find ways around the system. So having a good, strong security policy implemented with your SSO is really, really important.
And so it talks a little bit and breaks down what OAuth 2.0 is, and it's a standard that apps use to provide client applications with access. It has 4 important roles. No, did you want to say something?
Nope. I was
Oh,
just agreeing.
yeah, so the authorization server, which is the server that issues the access token, the resource owner, normally your application's end user that grants permissions to access the resource server with an access token. The client, which is the application that requests the access token and then passes it to the resource server, and the resource server, which accepts the access token and must verify that it is valid. In this case, this is your application.
Yep. And you can kind of see, it's not exactly the same, but you can kind of see some similarities as far as that process of going back and forth, similar to kind of what we were talking about with Kerberos. I mean, it's not exactly the same, but you're talking about clients and resource owners, and there being this process of requesting access through some type of token or ticket, and then that going back and forth. And again, the thing comes back to protecting the integrity of that ticket or that token, because if somebody is able to compromise those types of things, then you're in for a bad day.
Yep. And then last but not least, OpenID Connect, which is an authentication standard built on top of OAuth 2.0. It adds an additional token called an ID token. For that, it uses a simple JSON web tokens, JWT, while OAuth 2.0 is about resource access and sharing. OIDC is all about user authentication.
So
That makes sense.
Yep. That kind of covered all that, so we can knock that out. Before we get through this questions, got a whole bunch of people dropping in, so I'm just going to throw this up on the screen real quick. Techno Chatter, what's up? What's good? Keep it techie. Hey. How's it going? I don't know what Monique was saying no to. Maybe it was the feedback from the mic or something.
Yeah, because I had asked if anybody could hear the feedback. That
okay, cool.
And she was responding.
And Mary C, hey all. Appreciate all of y'all dropping in here. All right, let's knock out these questions here. Which Active Directory is cloud-based? Well, we were just talking about Azure Active Directory.
Is it Azure?
Yeah, Azure.
I've been saying Azure like.
Oh no, I mean maybe that. Hey, maybe that's like my New England accent coming through there or something.
No, I mean,
Azure sounds a lot fancier than Azure, so maybe I'm just.
I'm high maintenance, so
yeah.
there's that. So.
Which authentication method does not provide data integrity? I think we were talking about LDAP.
No, the NT. Let me scrub it.
NTLM.
Yeah. Yeah, because it
provides. It does not provide data integrity. Okay. Yep.
Yeah. No confidentiality, no integrity. Yep. So. Yeah.
Mary says that she feels that our back and forth on Azure or Azure might be how some people say caramel differently. Probably.
Oh, you just said caramel, and I'm calling it caramel.
Well,
Like, so that's funny. That is so funny.
yep.
Like, oh wow.
Is it, no. Not caramel is a
Well,
name of
caramel,
yeah, but
caramel.
right, caramel.
No,
See? Carmel is a name of a town out by Indianapolis, right? Yeah.
that is caramel.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, see?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yep.
That's wild.
Which authentication method assigns a ticket in order for a user to log in? Kerberos.
Gross.
Which authentication method allows a user to access applications with a single login? SAML. And which authentication method uses JSON Web Tokens or JWTs? OpenID Connect. All right.
Okay.
On to utility tools. Any questions up to this point? If you want to throw them in there, then we can try and answer them. Those first two sections aren't necessarily as exciting as the last two sections are going to be. So,
Yeah. I mean, because it just basically talks about just the built-in tools that come in Windows.
yep.
One that is important, well, a couple of them I think are kind of important. Of course, you got the command line tools,
Yep.
the registry editor, regedit.
Yep.
I think the task scheduler is good to know how to manage. Event viewer, that's really important, especially if something starts to go, haywire with your computer.
Yep.
Being able to view the events and understand what they mean can help solve that problem.
Yep. I mean, so like task scheduler, if you have any type of scripts that you need to be running on a periodic basis, then that's pretty much what you're going to be using to be able to kick those off. Like if you have PowerShell scripts or something like that. Event viewer, like you said, is really beneficial to be able to see different types of events, although that always correlates back to making sure that you have the right auditing policies in your GPOs turned on. Because if you don't, then you might actually be missing certain logs that actually are of value to you. Across a full enterprise, though, that's really, really hard to manage as far as wanting to go and look at events within Event Viewer. So that's where, from a security perspective, you start getting into different types of SIMs and things like that, where you're going to have different types of logging agents on your device, or sending stuff to like a forwarder for Splunk or something like that, to kind of take all of that stuff back to a central place, be able to pull it together and correlate to be able to search and look for different types of things that are going on.
Yeah.
What else did you hit on? We talked performance monitor. I mean, it's kind of straightforward.
Yeah.
Disk manager, just to see, what your partitions are as far as, what's using disk space and stuff like that, creating new partitions. Services, your service manager is important too.
Yeah, it is.
Especially when it comes to troubleshooting things that aren't working. That's going to be where you're going to go in and set specific things like, if a certain application or service you want to start up whenever the box boots up, or if it's something that's more manual. There's also certain configurations and stuff like that that you can do from a service perspective individually within that tool. That's kind of good for computer management. We move on to the security policy.
So local security policy is a group of settings you can configure to strengthen the computer's security. Even though most policy settings in Windows are fine, there are a few that need adjusting for enhanced security. You can set the minimum password length, the password complexity level, and you can disable guest and local administrator accounts and many more. Note, if the computer is not integrated into AD, disabling local admin administrator account is a bad idea.
Can be yeah, it can end poorly. uh, so a few things with local security policies. I think we talked about this in the AD intro video I did last week. So there's kind of a hierarchy in the way that security policies are applied. And the first spot that the box or the server will look at is its local security policy. And then moving from that, it will look at configurations from I think it's from a site perspective, and then from a domain perspective, and then from an actual OU perspective. So if you have something set from a local security perspective, and then at these other points there isn't anything set, then what was set at the local security policy is going to be what's going to be implemented on that machine. The problem with that, though, is if you have something set on your local security policy on one box and you don't have it set on another box, then that can get you in trouble. And that's why within an operational environment, you're going to end up using GPOs, group policy objects, to be able to push out these configurations to all of your Windows devices or subsets of your different Windows devices. And that's why normally we'll end up seeing these rules done at an OU level, because that's going to be the last one that's going to be checked. And as long as you have it set within the OU, since that's the last one that's checked, whatever is set there is going to be what's going to be implemented on your device.
Yeah. This cleanup is kind of self-explanatory. um, let's see, the registry editor. The Windows registry database stores many important operating system settings. For example, it contains entries with information about what should happen when double-clicking a particular file type or how wide the taskbar should be. Built-in and inserted hardware also stores information in the registry when the driver is installed. This driver is called up every time the system is booted up. To access the registry editor, you can either search it or use the Windows key plus R and type reg edit.
So I would say an important thing with that, again, from a security perspective, is that you see with a lot of different types of attacks and malware, you will often see some type of corresponding registry change. And there's certain parts of the registry that are, I guess we'd say, more important than others. And so making sure that you have good, I don't know if I want to say configuration management, but for lack of a better term, that's what I'll use. Good monitoring of your registry and particular areas of the registry that would be susceptible to compromise and can cause bad things to happen. Right? So there's a whole bunch of different tools that you can use to kind of alert and monitor on those types of registry changes. So that could be its own 4-hour video on securing registries. But good to know that that is something that is there and you want to be aware of. Also, registry configuration changes, while you can do them with regedit, if it's something that you need pushed out across multiple devices or all devices within your environment, you actually can push out registry changes through the GPO as well. So that can make things easier too.
Let's see. So they talk about just the command line interface and PowerShell, which both of them are command line tools. PowerShell is a little more powerful than just, but I guess it depends on what exactly you are doing.
Sure.
PowerShell is good for like automating different stuff within Windows across multiple systems. So that's good to get some experience with that. Let's see, Windows Terminal can be used instead of PowerShell and CMD and can be installed from the Microsoft Store. The application includes multiple tab support alongside themes and customization for developers who want to tweak the terminal. And then they give us like instances from the registry editor, which
Mhm.
is pretty cool. Have you ever had to really do anything like with the registry specifically?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So there's a lot of different types of hardening configurations that you need to actually set registry changes for. Sometimes you'll even have patches that come out for Microsoft where you need to install the patch, but then there's also registry changes that you need to make as well. So that's also kind of another good security point, is just because you implement the patch, or I should say install the patch, doesn't mean that the operating system necessarily takes it and does what it needs to do. So you really need to make sure that you're reading the Microsoft KV articles um, for whatever patches you're applying, to make sure that you're doing whatever else needs to be done on the machine to make sure it's implemented properly. One thing I do want to hit back on the command line versus PowerShell. I think one of the other differences there, and the reason why PowerShell is a little bit more of a risk than the command line, is
Mhm.
because, well, PowerShell has its own scripting language, so you can do a whole bunch of stuff with that. And then also, I think that from at least an administrative capability perspective, PowerShell is able to do a lot more things than the command line is able to do.
Yeah. Um, right. So they don't have any
They don't have
questions
anything for
here.
that. All right, perfect.
Nope.
We can
Moving on to the
we can
servers.
do that.
Okay. Um, for those of you that may not know, a server is a piece of hardware or software equipment that provides functionality for other softwares or devices. Different types of servers. We got the DC, which are domain controllers, file servers, web, FTP, mail, database, proxy, and application servers.
Yep.
Um, I guess we can hit on what some of those do. So, like the domain controller might be one of the most important servers because in AD and AAD infrastructure, we can control users, groups, restrict actions, improve security, and many more other computers and servers.
Yep.
So, file server provides a great way to share files across devices on a network. Web server, it serves static or dynamic content to a web browser by loading a file from a disk and serving it across the networks to a user's web browser. FTP makes possible moving one or more files securely between computers while providing file security and organization as well as transfer control. Mail servers, pretty self-explanatory, but they store mail over a corporate network via LAN, via LANs and WANs,
Yep.
and across. Do you pronounce that differently?
No, that's LANs and WANs. You're good.
All
Yeah.
right,
There's no fancy way to say that. That is what it is.
just have to check.
Yep.
Um, so a database server is a computer system that provides other computers with services related to accessing and retrieving data from one or multiple databases. That would be something you would see like SQL Server or SQL running on a database server. Proxy server. This server usually sits between a client program and external server to filter requests, improve performance, and share connections. And then last but not least, the application server. They're usually used to connect the database servers and the users.
Okay. So a few thoughts kind of on this. So when we were talking before about Kerberos and accessing different services, this is actually kind of a good depiction of different types of services that a user might actually end up being requesting or trying to interact with. Um, so it's kind of nice that they have that laid out there. Um, yeah, domain controller is going to be, the one that in most cases is going to be considered really important, but depending upon the company or the organization that you work for, if you have sensitive information that's maintained on, say, a file server or a web server, and there's some type of software exploit that's available to access that, then an attacker doesn't necessarily have to go and compromise the domain controller to be able to do things. They can exploit whatever the weakness is, on those servers. So it's kind of a good thing to keep in mind. Yes, we want to protect the domain controller. We want to be as stringent with the security with that as we can be. We want to be granular. We want to make sure that everybody doesn't have unnecessarily administrative credentials. You don't want a whole bunch of domain admins and things like that. But sometimes it's good to kind of just step back and look at everything and try and figure out really where are your crown jewels in your environment, and what are the possible areas that data could be exfilled out of that, or what are the risks that are associated with the software hardware that data is on. So always kind of good to step back and look at things a little bit differently that way. Some other things with the web server. If we're talking about this from a Windows perspective, then that's going to be running on something called IIS. When we talk about that from a Linux perspective, we're normally talking about something like Nginx or what's the other one? I can't remember off the top of my head. But IIS is what you're going to see within a Windows environment there. And then same thing for mail servers. Here within a Windows environment, we're talking about Exchange. Database servers, normally that's going to be a SQL box. Yeah, I think that's kind of good things to hit on there. So what can be considered the most important server? Their answer there is going to be domain controller. And what server can store emails is going to be mail server.
Mail server.
And we got one comment coming in here talking about registry edits. I work in an industrial setting where the registry edits aren't done properly. We'll start getting updates alerts on the HMI. What does HMI stand for? I either don't know that or I'm just not doing well at the moment.
It could stand for a lot of things.
Yeah. Something management interface, maybe?
Yeah, I would think. I don't know.
All right, let's go. Now this starts to get fun.
Yeah.
So we're going to RDP into a Windows box. Here we go. Human machine interface. Okay, cool.
Whoa. I don't think I would have guessed it. I wouldn't have got that.
So I've already deployed the Windows box. Now, if you're doing this with using the built-in attack box that they have here on TryHackMe, there isn't a default way to end up using RDP. So you have to install a client to be able to do that. So I installed one called Ramina. I think that's how it's pronounced. And then so with that, then we end up getting this little prompt here. I already have the IP address, the username, the password. One thing that you might need to change here, I needed to change it when I tried to do this initially, was it gave me an error with trying to use one of the graphics options. So it's True Color 32 BPV ended up working for me. And so we can go ahead and connect here, and we'll see how slow this actually goes, because it was pretty slow when trying to connect before. Oh, come on. Let's see. Let's do that again. Make sure that is still up. So that's 10.10.154.18. 10.10.154.18. Administrator, password was TryHackMe123, bang. Control. Let's try that. And if it's going to be...
It's unable to RDP into it?
Yeah, so I'm just going to terminate the box and spin it back up. I mean...
Okay.
It'll take like a minute for the IP to come back up on that. So we can kind of take a look at what they want us to do here while we wait for that to come back up. So when we open this one up, we're going to end up using the Active Directory. There's like a server tools pop-up that will come up whenever you log into a Windows server. And pretty much it's your main jump-off point to get to a whole bunch of different types of management tools on the server. So, I mean, even just looking at it, you have your stuff for your users and computers. That's going to be where you're going to be dealing with creating users, resetting passwords, things like that. Some of the other things that we talked about before, disk cleanup, computer management. If you're running a DNS server, so, you know, if this was a domain controller and we were running DNS, then we would go under DNS. Event viewer, like we were talking about, looking at your different logs and things like that. We were talking about managing, creating group policy objects. You go under group policy management, and that's actually what we're going to be doing here a little bit later. Another useful one is the services. So if you're having any issues with services or applications and you need to restart them or things like that, then we would go under services, task scheduler. And then also you can open up PowerShell from there as well. All right, let's see if this works now. 10.10.17.126. 10.10.17.126.
Looking at these screenshots from AD and it's making me remember the help desk, the service desk. Oh, man.
Well, let's see.
What was this program called that you were using? Ramina?
All right, we're going to do one other thing. If this is giving me that much of a hard time, we will get out of that. And terminate that, start the attack box again. Could be one of the, sometimes that stuff just times out. I've noticed that happens sometimes with with the TryHackMe attack box. It will just lose its network connectivity for whatever reason. So we'll keep looking at this to kind of walk through what it is. So in essence, what they're going to be having us do here is create a few different users underneath the domain. So we're going to go under Active Directory users and computers. We're going to go underneath the domain. And you can kind of see a lot of these built-in things that are already there. We're going to create some specific ones that are unique. I think that's kind of normally best practice within an operational environment, is not to use the default stuff and actually create your own. At least that's what I've seen folks do in other environments. So we're going to end up creating a new OU.
Yeah.
And then within the OU, we're going to create some user accounts. I think we're going to create 3 user accounts. And then we're going to create 3 different groups. Admin group, a RDP group, and a no RDP group. And then we're going to take those different users, assign them to different groups.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the end of this one. And then we're going to create a GPO to actually assign different permissions to the different groups, which will then be passed on to the different users. Let's see
Yep.
if that brought that
Easy
up yet.
peasy.
Yep. Almost.
Yeah, those attack boxes, like.
Yeah, sometimes they're iffy.
Mm-hmm. You have to spin those up a day ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's try this again. Full screen. We'll get rid of that. And we will bring this up. Apt install. I think that's what it was. Rumina. I don't know if I spelled that right. Let me see. I'm going to go look at a cheat sheet real quick because I was looking at somebody else doing that. I think it's Rumina. Yeah, Ramina. Okay.
Well, you need to install it on here?
Yeah.
You do? Okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yep. Let me just change that over there. Okay. Now, we can go that installed. We can go, it should go in under Internet, Ramina. Let's try that again. I don't care about that. Should pop it open.
Okay.
And then we're going to go like that. And let me get rid of that split view. And it was 10.10, 117, 126. 10.10, 117. Was 117 or 17? 17, 126. Okay. And it was a capital administrator.
Yeah. Colon.
Helps when I spell it right. And then it was TryHackMe.
Yeah.
Bang. Don't want to use that. And we will accept the certificate.
Okay.
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 Doing the Windows room seems so much more glitchy. It does seem that way, doesn't it? It's good as long as... So I kind of poked around with this a little bit earlier, and it worked perfectly fine. As long as you didn't walk away from it. So I mean, yeah, I don't know. I assume that they aren't, putting too many resources towards these virtual instances. So who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows what it takes for them to time out and stuff like that.
I'm looking at the screen, and this little door behind me looks so creepy.
Oh, your door?
Yeah.
No, that's what I said. It looks like you got elves that live in your house or something.
And yeah, these if y'all see this door creep open and
I'm for real, yeah.
Y'all gonna say something.
Yeah, you ever seen that that horror movie Leprechaun? That's what I'm thinking is
Oh my gosh, yeah. Oh my goodness, that would be so creepy too.
Yep. Oh my goodness. And then we just wait. This is why I like the Linux rooms, because
it's a lot more faster.
Yep, not messing with this.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe everybody is on TryHackMe right now, trying to do some.
You never know. You never know. I know that was kind of the we had something like that when I was in one of those classes, and everybody was trying to spawn up a machine at the
Oh
same
yeah,
time,
yeah, yeah.
and it
There
did
we
not
go. We're
like it.
getting there.
Yeah,
So this was that server manager app that I said was going to pop up when you first log in.
yeah. Server manager, and that's basically just a GUI. Uh, um, you could just do so many different things in there. I used to kick people from servers and server manager, like because we would have certain software that just it would not work if you were on a certain server, it
Yep.
wouldn't work properly. So I had to boot them from the server in order for it to kick them to a new one, and so I was constantly using this. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
this thing is taxed if server manager is not responding right from the get.
Dang. Ow.
We'll see. We'll see how this goes. We'll work our way through this. This will be
Yeah.
like working in a operational environment that is not scaled properly.
Right. It's like an overload on the
Yep.
server. Yeah, that's crazy that it threw up that error. There we go.
So
Okay.
we'll see. I'm waiting for my mouse to get a response with it so I can make it a little bit bigger so everybody can see well.
Yeah.
All right. Come on. I'm trying to
This
pull
is
you
why.
diagonally. Come on, man. This reminds me of, you ever play any of those video games where it's trying to mimic you coming home drunk and you're trying to put like the key in the keyhole?
I absolutely have not played that
Okay.
game before.
Yeah. As you know, they come up with all sorts of stupid like app games for your phone that
Yeah.
is just a way for them to like, steal your data. But yeah, that would
Yeah.
definitely be like one of those.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about though, because I see a lot of those little ads on Facebook
Oh yeah, yeah,
where
yeah, yeah.
the zombies pop up and then
Yep,
you do
exactly.
the move, and it's crazy. Yeah, I was like, that just looks like malware. Like
Yeah.
it's giving malware vibes.
Come on, man. This is unnecessary.
Just the
I
fact
can't
that it's
even my actual physical Windows skills suck at the moment.
yeah,
All right.
that is crazy.
I'm going to go tools,
Yeah, because that's what I think we're supposed to go to tools and then
users
the
and oops.
users and computers.
Yeah. Users and computers.
Okay.
So, this works. I was going to show you the rest of what was on this drop down. Maybe I will once it gets a little bit happier, but all right, we're going to go to
Yeah.
users and computers.
Okay. Probably take about another 5 minutes for that
Yeah,
to
yeah,
pop up.
it's going to take its time.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, so it must be like everybody is RDP'd into this system
Or
right now.
doing other stuff that's taken away from the CPU and the RAM on whatever virtualization platform they're using.
Yeah.
It's stinking.
It is. Yeah, you can see it. I mean, it's been doing that for a minute.
Yeah, normally you don't see this, like that blue bar up there, keep going
Yeah.
across like that.
It's going so slow.
Yeah. Yep.
So what? Oh, okay. There we go. That's crazy. Lost my train of thought. So if it lets you, you should go to advanced features.
Yep.
Which is through the view. And it wants you to go to detail.
You are now number 1344 in the queue. Seriously. wild.
Yeah, this is crazy.
All right. View. So there's certain types of permissions, or I shouldn't say permissions, but there's certain types of additional data that is useful to be able to see or to be able to edit within here. And sometimes you have to go under advanced features to be able to do that.
Yeah.
So it's kind of just good to do that in general whenever I'm doing this. I'm worried if I go full screen on this.
You should be able to do it. Like, yeah. There you go.
Yeah. I just didn't want to end up cutting stuff off so people couldn't see it because we're over in the corner here, but I think we'll be okay. All right, so here's kind of the breakdown of what we were looking at as far as different folders underneath the particular domain. And we were going to go ahead and create, I don't know, you want to kind of drive me through that? I'll do it here and you can kind of read to me so I don't have to switch back and forth.
So they are asking us to double click the thm.lab.
Yep.
And that just shows an Active Directory tree. And then now they want you to create an OU.
Okay,
where
so we have a few different options of things that we can do here, and depending on what you're trying to do, you know, you could create a user, you could create a group, which we are going to do that after we create an OU.
Yeah. So they want you to create a new OU and name it Lab.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. So now they want you to right click on the Lab OU and create a new user.
Okay. Is this the one where they want us to create like 3 users?
I
think they have us creating 3.
Yeah, I think so. No, it's we're creating a user, an object, 2 objects.
Yeah, no. So if you go all the way down, then once you've successfully created your first AD user, they want you to create 2 more. So they want you to create Albert Einstein, Jim Carrey, and Usain Bolt. I'm not typing all that out. We're going to come up with 3 other names.
Random names.
Let's go Erica Badu style and go Jim, James, Paul. We'll leave Tyrone out of it. So Jim, it will be. And password, we'll use the same one that we use on the other one. So HackMe 123. That'll just be easy to remember since we're already doing it.
Yes.
HackMe 123. The options that they wanted us to do was user cannot change password and password never expires, right?
Yep.
These are worth mentioning. Normally, if you're working at a service desk and you have somebody, you're setting somebody up with an account, you might end up selecting this first one, user must change password at next logon. So that way you give somebody a standard password, they're able to log in and they immediately have to change it to something that only they know. User cannot change password. That's kind of interesting. Normally I see that more with if you're creating like a service account or something that's not necessarily tied to a user. Then you might do that. So even though it's called a user, you could be creating an account that's used by an application or a service. And that would be where that kind of makes sense. Likewise, if you're doing a service account, you probably will set the password never expires, just because that can come back to bite you in the ass if you have service accounts that expire in the middle of the night and then your key services in your environment stop working. And then another option that you have is account is disabled. That might be something where you're creating accounts for somebody ahead of time. Let's say you have a new user in your environment that's going to be starting 2 weeks from now. You might create the account, but then disable it until they are onboarded, and then you can re-enable the account, and then they're good to go.
Yeah, and another thing to mention in AD, you can go to like the user's properties and set permissions as far as like what times they are allowed to
Mm-hmm.
log on, when does their account expire, or just different things of that nature. So it's pretty awesome, pretty cool.
So I will actually show that here once I get all of these created.
Yeah.
And one more. TryHackMe 123. And this one, TryHackMe. Okay. Now, for kicks and giggles, if we wanted to actually go and see that, a few different things that are worth kind of pointing out, some options that you have here, right? So you can disable the account from here. You could also reset the password if you wanted to. You can add them to groups. We can also do that once we actually go into the properties. You can delete them. You can rename it. But if we go into properties, then you're going to see a whole bunch of different options here. Normally, you're going to populate this stuff with description. So Tyrone's friend, right? We could put in an email, telephone number. This is where the fact that this is actually a directory comes back and is useful, right? So if you go and you're actually
Yes.
looking things up from a global address list perspective, the more information that you put into this, the more helpful it can be for other people that are searching it. All right. Address, account. This was kind of the stuff that we did before. You were talking about logon hours.
Yeah.
And what they're able to log into. So at the
Yeah.
moment, he can do anything. But if you wanted to actually change when this was, then you can go ahead and implement that in here.
Yeah.
When a user ends up locking out their account, this here will actually show that it's locked out. And then you as an administrator can come in here and unlock it. Other things. Again, just more information for a global address list.
Yeah.
No, desktop, I don't normally do that. Attribute editor can come into play actually quite a bit, especially if you're working in a mixed Linux and Windows environment. Some of these settings in here need to be set so that LDAP running on the Linux boxes is able to integrate and be able to look things up properly within Active Directory. So you might actually end up using the attribute editor. Security. Oh, don't freeze on me. Environment, sessions, remote control. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the main things. Oh, this one. Members.
Yeah.
So if we were going to add this into different groups, which we are actually going to do after we create some groups, this would be where you would end up doing that. So we will go back and do that here shortly. So the next thing that it wanted us to do was create groups. Is that right?
Yes. So yeah, in our lab OU, create a new group called admins.
So we're going to do admins, RDP access, and no RDP access.
Cool. Yeah. So those are your three groups.
New group. Admins. It's worth noting here too. The group scope. Normally, if we're talking about within a domain, you're going to go global on that and default to security, which is what we want to. So normally you can just leave this alone, but it's good to understand that those are there. All right, so it was RDP
access.
RDP access.
Yep.
And then no RDP access.
Yep.
Okay. Now.
Yeah, now they want you to add the users.
Different users to different groups. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. That is easy enough. So we'll just go from the top. Now you could actually do this a few different ways. You could do this through the individual user if you want to do that, or you could go into the group. And since we didn't actually look at that, I can show you what that looks like. You can go into here and add the member this way. So you could hit add and then add the name of the person down here. That's kind of backwards though, at least from the way that I normally do this. So we normally do it from the user and add them into the group. It's also worth mentioning that groups can be members of other groups. So I think that we actually are going to do that with one of these in the next part of this. So let's just go James, add a group. We're going to go admins. You can half type stuff out and hit check names. And you'll see admins here, and you'll see that it's in the folder or in the OU for labs or for lab. So we're going to hit OK. OK. And now if we go back in properties for him, and we go under member of, you'll see that he's a member of two different groups. Jim will go RDP access. We go check names. There we go. And Paul will be no RDP access. Okay. So we did that. Now,
that's basically it. They just wanted you to add, I think, one to each of those
so
groups.
That was it. Then they wanted us to add admins into the domain admins group. So that kind of
domain admins group. Okay.
Highlights what I was talking about as far as adding groups into other groups.
Gotcha.
So
we're adding the admins into the
domain admins group.
Gotcha.
Yep. Now the reason for that is because the domain admins group really has full permissions to do pretty much everything on the box. So
yeah.
if you're in that, then you're able to pretty much do whatever you want for the most part.
Keys to the kingdom.
Yep. So let's go see. I think that was it.
Yeah.
Add both the RDP access and no RDP access groups to the remote desktop users group. Okay.
Is it already one created in there? I can't see it.
There should be.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, I'm going under notes. Members of add. Is that what it said to do?
No, it said
no, remote desktop users. There we go. Yep.
Yeah, that's the group. Yeah.
There we go. Okay. Properties, members of, add, remote desktop users. Okay, apply. Done with that. All right. That is it. Now, even though we're adding the no RDP access group to the RDP users group, the no RDP access group can be blocked using GPO, and that's what we're going to be doing in this last section here, is creating a GPO. All right. So
Okay.
we are going to go back to here.
Tools.
Oh, there we go. Now I can.
So
something else I wanted to point out here, since we couldn't see this before, is when you first log in and you bring this up, you're going to kind of have this roles and server group stuff here. This is kind of a good spot to just take a look at real quick to see if there's anything kind of jacked up going on with your server. And you'll know what jacked up is depending upon what the expected state of the server is. So for instance, this could be expected that there's 3 services that aren't running on here, and then that's not an issue. But if this is all normally green and everything is running properly, and you log in and you see that this is red and 3, then you know that that's something that you might want to check out. All right, so we are going to go to GPO, Policy Management.
Yes. And they're saying right-click on the group policy objects and create a new object.
Okay, so just to like level set, the ones that you are going to have in here by default are going to be the default domain controller policy, which should be applied only to domain controllers, and then you have a default domain policy, which goes out to everything. So we're going to go new. And what do they want us to call it?
Groups GPO.
Groups?
Yep, GPO.
GPO. Okay.
All right. Let's authenticate. Let users authenticate using RDP. Go to policies, Windows settings.
So I'm going under edit.
Yeah, I think so.
Go under edit. Yep.
Yeah.
And so this is where you're kind of going to get into a whole bunch of different breakdowns. Once you actually start doing GPOs, then this is all going to look. It will become very familiar to you. Just make sure that that's kind of viewable.
Yeah.
I'm just expanding these just so we can kind of.
Right, so you can see it better.
Yep.
Yeah.
Especially if people have never poked around and aren't familiar with this.
Yeah.
So where were we going to go?
Oh, so policies.
Under Windows. Policies under computer configuration. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So yeah. Then it's Windows settings.
And then security settings.
Yeah. Security settings under Windows. Yep. Local policies.
Yep.
And users' right assignment.
Okay. So just to point out a few things here real quick. This is normally when you do GPOs, you're going to be in this a lot. Count policies. This is where you set your password policy. So maximum, minimum age, password history, password complexity, all that type of stuff you do within here. Account lockout policy, again, another really important one. How long is the account going to stay locked out for? Like, is it going to become unlocked automatically after 15 minutes or an hour? Or does it require an administrator to come in and re-enable it? How long or how many failed attempts does it take for an account to get locked out? These are all things that are kind of here. Audit policy is going to come back to some things like that. Are you actually monitoring if there's certain types of changes or access, things like that? User rights management, a whole bunch of stuff here that you definitely will do. If you're following any type of configuration hardening guide, you will definitely be in this section doing a lot. And then security options as well. So were we going under security options or user rights?
No, we're going to the user rights assignment, and then they want you to double click on allow log on through remote desktop services.
Yep. So we're going to pop this one open. Yep.
And they want you to add a user or a group.
Yep. So we're going to define the policy. So we need to actually checkbox this to kind of enable this. And then what do they want us to add here?
They want you to add in the admins and the RDP access groups into this policy.
Both of them? Let's see. Admins and RDP access. Okay.
Yep.
Browse. Okay, and then we can go semicolon RDP
access.
There we go. Okay. Hit OK. Okay.
Right. Then to lock a user or a group to log in using RDP, we can do that by they want you to double click the deny log on through remote desktop services.
Okay.
And that one you're going to add the no RDP access group to that.
Yep.
That security policy.
Oh, I was thinking about it.
It was doing so good for a while too. Like
it was smooth.
Smooth sailing.
Yep. All right. Come on, buddy. There we go. Okay. And then deny login through remote desktop services. Properties. Define that. Add user group. And it was no.
The no RDP access.
There we go. Okay. I'll put that there. We don't need that. Remove. Apply. There we go. Come on, buddy. You're so close.
Literally.
Yep.
I know next they are wanting you to right click on domain controllers OU.
Yeah.
And then link an existing GPO and the GPO that you created.
Yep.
And it's like this is one of those things that the more you do things like this in AD, the easier it becomes.
Oh, most definitely. You become familiar with a lot of these things. You remember where everything is.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Okay. There we go. All right, we're good there. We can get out of this now. Now, it wanted me to go, you said the default domain controller policy?
Yeah, go to the domain controllers OU, and then I think you're right-clicking and link an existing GPO and select the one that you created to link it to that domain.
Am I, let's make sure. Under domains. Oh, okay. That's it. Yeah, I wasn't understanding that. Okay. Domain controllers. And then we're going to link existing GPO.
Yes. To the one that we create. Yeah.
The group's GPO. We're going to add that there. Now, important thing here again is we're talking about precedents and overwriting different types of things. So it's good to understand if you have conflicting rules in different GPOs and things like that. You might end up having to do some troubleshooting to make sure that what it is that you're trying to apply is actually being applied. If you have it written in one GPO and then you have something else that's telling you to do something different. Okay, so we do that, and then what? They want us to do a GP update?
Yep.
Okay. So GP update is a way to force the computer to pull down the GPOs. It will do it by itself periodically, but if you don't feel like waiting for that, I should be able to. Yeah, I can do it through the. Come on. So slow.
Yeah.
I just want a command prompt.
Yeah, it's crazy. Word to the wise, if your real computer is running this slow,
Yeah,
might
yeah.
get
You
it
might
checked
you
out.
might want to start over from scratch on that.
Yeah, might want to wipe that.
Yeah.
Wipe that on out. Yeah, because this is no good. Especially because it's a server manager running on here. Like I would be concerned.
Yep. Like it'd take you an hour and a half to like create a user account.
Wait, it's open. Yeah, an open PowerShell instead of the. Yeah, I guess it don't matter.
I mean, I wasn't sure which was going to take longer, me opening PowerShell or me trying to open up Finder, typing in CMD, letting it search for it, and then clicking on it, and
Oh
then
my
opening that up.
I mean, I think equally that they would both be equally slow.
Yeah. Man,
But
if there's ever been a video that would convert people to Linux, this is it.
yeah,
I swear that it is not this slow.
what is this window? What version of Windows is this? Like,
It's Server 2016.
oh my god, I can't. mm,
Yeah. I mean, I mean, like, I don't know.
yeah,
I've never seen PowerShell take this long to open before.
ever.
That's wild. I, uh, I would under normal circumstances be very willing to check Task Manager, but I'm worried that if I open Task Manager, this is going to.
Oh my god, we're gonna be here till tomorrow. You open a task manager, it's a wrap.
Yep.
That's because it's gonna pull resources from you trying to open PowerShell.
I mean, I don't even know. It's just wild.
Oh man.
Any good movies?
Ooh.
I'm watching Mayor
I'm
of Easttown on HBO. That's pretty good.
oh, is it?
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
I've been watching this Korean TV drama on Netflix.
Okay.
It's called Minds, and oh my god, it is so good, like
Okay.
super good. So I haven't watched any movies lately, but I do want to see A Quiet Place Part 2.
Okay. Yeah.
when that comes. I don't know if it's out already or not.
Oh,
So.
we got a window.
Yes.
Oh, actually, give me a prompt.
Yeah. It won't let you type anything?
No.
That's the blue screen of death.
Yeah. Come on, buddy. There we go. Whew. GP
We
update.
did it, Joe.
Force. And it wasn't recursive, right? I think it was just force.
No, yeah, it was just force.
All right. This is gonna like melt down the box.
Yeah. This message will self-destruct in 5, 4. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I could just imagine. And then I'm thinking, so after that, they want you to type in who am I, the who am I command.
Well, I think they want me to log out and then attempt to log back in.
Yeah.
With one of the other accounts. It's telling me already running command. Please wait. Let me hop over and we can make sure. So we're gonna test the GPO. So we're gonna kill the RDP session. We are gonna first log in with Jim, and Jim is gonna work. I don't know that I'm actually gonna type who am I. We're gonna see what we're able to do and able to see.
Let's see what the speech look like.
You can just trust me when you see me actually type in the username, Jim. Yeah. And then they want me to let. Well, we'll see. We'll see how this goes. I mean,
Yeah, it's still going. Oh my god. Just even the search area.
Yep.
Like that's crazy.
Yep.
That's wild.
I mean, you could just trust us.
Right. Trust
this
us.
this does work as it's supposed to.
No. Oh, okay. At least it brought it up.
Yeah. We're gonna get competing terminals here.
Basically. Oh, there we go. It's a little bit faster. Oh.
We'll take it.
We got movement.
Ha! Now the PowerShell one in the back is working.
I just saw it kick out. I was just like, oh my god.
Man, screw you. That's ridiculous. All right. So that took that. We will
log off.
kill this session.
Yeah, I think once you kill the server manager, maybe that'll.
Yeah. All right. So we're going to do that again. We're going to 10, 10, 17, 126.
Yeah.
17, 126. We're going to go Jim. that. We did that. Connect.
All right.
Come on, this is your chance to impress people. All right, you see we're logging in with Jim. I don't feel that we really need to do anything else to show that Jim has logged in.
Jim is here. He has arrived.
Yep.
All right.
What do they want to do to see that?
Oh, now they want you to try to log in with.
Oh, be able to like command prompt a login as admin with him.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah. We'll work it out.
Yeah. So when it comes to like the command prompt and wanting to do that as admin, the reason for that being is if you just open the command prompt and you go to use it, it doesn't have necessarily admin permissions to do things. So you actually need to right click on it, select run as admin, and as long as your account has the necessary permissions, then you're able to do admin type stuff. Let's see. Just see what else.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Oh, my personalized settings.
Yeah.
Even feel like Windows 95 was quicker than this.
I'm quite certain.
Yes.
I am quite certain it is.
uh,
Like I'm really surprised it's so slow. Like maybe somebody hacked it for real. Like
yeah.
there's something going on in the background.
Yeah. All right. Well, I don't really want to sit here and wait for this. So we're able to get in here with Jim. We would go and use James. He'll be able to get in, but the thing is he won't be able to actually have administrative permissions, right? He wouldn't be able to actually, run as admin. He would get denied on that. And then the last one was Paul. Paul shouldn't be able to RDP. So we'll just prove that that is the case. $26. True color. There we go. Okay.
Looks like something's happening. There we go. So it should block this one from logging in. Is that what you're saying, or?
I mean, it should, unless I got it confused which one I put in the group. There you go.
There you go, yeah.
So since we have that GPO that has to deny, then Paul cannot get in, and he can go hang out with Tyrone and help him do whatever Tyrone's doing at the moment. All right. Whew.
So yeah, it's no questions at the end. So
Cool. Yep. So that is it. Did we miss?
should be everything.
Should be everything. Did we not? Correct. Completed. There we go.
Oh.
We are all done with that.
Winner.
Woo! Man. All right, so I mean, we covered a whole bunch of stuff there, including how you need to properly spec and size VMs when you're running Windows on them. So any questions or comments on this before we wrap it up, for myself or Kiki? I appreciate you dropping in again, Kiki. We'll do some more Windows stuff, or maybe we won't do some Windows stuff. Maybe we'll do. I mean, I want to do Windows stuff, but this is.
Yeah, maybe we better try something different. Like, yeah, we'll pick something out and do another one. Yeah, these are pretty fun though.
Yeah. No, I mean it's a lot of fun when the things work the way that they're supposed to work. So, yeah. So appreciate everybody hanging around. It had a decent group of folks all the way to the end. So yeah, sorry about the technical difficulties there, but hopefully it was interesting. Hopefully you learned some stuff from it. If you liked it, then hit the like button. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Go share Kiki's links for all the stuff she's doing too. And yeah, I think sometime the end of this week, it might even be this weekend, I'm going to do a video for a Pentest Plus practice quiz. So I got a practice quiz from who's is it Jason Dion? Does that sound right?
Probably.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So one of his practice quizzes, I got permission to do a video using that. So.
Oh, that's awesome. That's what I actually used to study for the exam.
How did yours go?
The exam?
Yeah.
It went all right. Some stuff was a little difficult, but then some stuff, I kind of knew the basics of it. But yeah, I used his.
Did you do the beta one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep, the beta exam. So waiting to hear back how they wait to the trial area or time frame is up, and then they let everybody know if you passed or failed. Okay. So I have to wait on it.
Yeah, I take mine last week of June.
Okay. Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So,
cool.
That's cool.
All right. Well, yeah, appreciate everybody dropping in. And yeah, we'll chat soon. Take care.
All right.
Bye.